It seems that reports of my survival have been greatly exaggerated.
This isn't possible.
Oh, I assure you, it is. How? Not how. Why? You were never meant to come here.
We have our orders. Leave the city, radio command from outside the storm wall. They send in the cavalry, we go home.
Hello there, I'm Sarah from 17 once again. This is my Spec Ops The Line FUBAR Difficulty video walkthrough. This is Chapter 4, The Refugees. So this is where the game starts to get a little bit more interesting. You've got a little opening up into the survival of the people that lived in Dubai as the sandstorm came, messed everything up. Like martial law was declared, and soldiers were sent in, and blah blah blah. All the nasty things that happened in this place, and it's also an excuse to have some pretty creepy, tension building moments where things look cultish and strange and all sorts of madness happening. And it's a nice change of pace. Like I mentioned previously, I think some of the pacing in the early parts of this game and in certain areas are really good, really affecting, and I think that's definitely a good thing. Obviously, when you've played it a few times, it's less impacting, so you're wanting to just get on with it, and sometimes the game does dwell a little bit on these moments to try and, help the exposition hit home. As I'm trying to open a door that doesn't actually open. Just try and, hit it with my face. Doesn't work. I'm sure we'll live. But this is probably the first level with a challenging checkpoint in it, because we're going to be making our way through a pretty crowded area that's got a lot of enemies. This is your first choice as well. I let this guy go the first time, so I decided to shoot him this time. Which I don't understand, because you let him go and then he goes downstairs and he says you're a bad guy anyway, which is kind of frustrating. And we're like, dude, we're on your side, stop being a dick. I understand that you've had clashes with soldiers and everything's gone to hell here, but there's only 3 of us. Why the hell would we want to fuck with an entire army of people? Doesn't make any sense, but there you go. So, down here is another place that you've got to wait for your team to do a little bit of talking, a little bit of investigating and understanding their environments before you can move forward. And it's this door here that they open, but you'll notice on this game, your team are the only expert door openers that there are, so you've got to wait for them a whole bunch of times. Especially when all they're doing is shotgunning hinges, which I think we could do ourselves, but apparently not. We're not trustworthy of the shotgun hinge door job, apparently. But this is a rough checkpoint, and it's rough because as soon as you exit this area, you're in no man's land with no cover, and the enemies are on your left and on your right. So I throw a flash immediately, or a stun, sorry, so that I can get into cover, I can position myself, and I can clean that guy up on the left. He's a dick, him on the left. He will throw a grenade at you almost every time. It forces you to move, and then his buddies will kill you. From this point now, if you can keep in control of this left-hand side and make sure no one flanks you, you should be safe. The only threat you're in trouble over here is your team going down. If your team starts to go down, it puts you in a position that is very difficult to recover from. So my advice is literally, don't tell them to shoot anybody too far away, because the farther away the target is you direct them to shoot, the more they will move to get to him. And these people are close as well, and on FUBAR you drop so quick, so you just have to have a good appreciation for how damaging the enemies can be. And I was actually quite surprised when I first played, because the jump of, how fast they kill you up close is pretty high from this difficulty to the last one. And everything else is not too bad. But up close, they've definitely scaled the parameters so that you die very fast. I would often compare it to the Call of Duty veteran fast, where one bullet, sometimes can be the end of you, especially Call of Duty 4. A lot of people say World at War, but 4 was the one I found hard. But as you push forward here, you're going to trigger a couple of extra spawns, and this combines 2 things that this game does really badly. One of them is introducing enemies. A lot of the times the game will spawn enemies in when you're 2 yards from them, and when you're on the hardest difficulty, when you're up close, you die super quick. Combine those 2 things together, it can make it very difficult and extremely nerve-wracking to push forward. Also, a little thing I've not mentioned. When you kill an enemy, if he's writhing around on the floor, it means you can execute him. You never want to do this when there are enemies still alive, but if you get lucky and all the enemies are dead and there's a couple of people wriggling around, make sure you execute them. because what it does is not only does it give you a little fancy, execution animation, but it fills your ammunition up. It puts bullets in your gun, it gives you grenades, it gives you a nice little bonus. And I think it's a really good idea. I think it's one of the things this game has done very well. It reminds me a little bit of, oh, here we go, Dancing with Death, stupid grenades. But it reminds me of Duke Nukem Forever, because for everything that game did wrong, it did one thing I felt was really interesting, and that was when you performed an execution on an enemy, it gave you life. And I am a massive fan of people daring to do different things with health, because I think we're at a point now on games where we're waiting for the next regenerating life phase to happen. We're waiting for the next archetype of health and health management, and I don't know what it's going to be, but I'm hoping somebody very creative and very smart comes up with something really cool, because I think it's about time. And for anybody that doesn't understand what I'm on about the transition from med packs and a little red cross and a number next to it with shield and shield numbers, from picking up little scraps of that add to this number. That transition from that phase to the screen getting redder and covered in blood, and then waiting a couple seconds and it healing you, because they are two very contrasting mechanics that we've seen in this generation of gaming, and I'm looking forward to whatever the next one is. And if you've got any cool ideas for life, feel free to leave a comment, because it's always cool to have a discussion about what we think developers might be thinking of, or even if you could come up with a super cool idea, that'd just be awesome to air it so that other people can see how awesome it is. But this is the tough area anyhow. You're descending, you have the height advantage, but it doesn't actually count for too much, considering that the enemies can shoot you when you can't shoot them, because the way that you aim over cover on this game, it means that you've got a blind spot that's kind of directly south of where you're aiming, and a lot of the times the enemies will shoot you and kill you before you could even see they were there. But this first area, be very careful. There's going to be a couple of enemies that rush up these stairs. The only thing that will save you is that the scripting on the enemy prioritizes running up the stairs than it does shooting at you. So, luckily enough, that guy didn't try to shoot me and I was able to kill him, because if he did, I would have been dead. Seconds. Just gone. But use your team, use the mark technique, always stay in cover, take it slow, check every single angle, and, just once again, take your time. If you don't take your time, you'll die, you'll get frustrated. The checkpoints are not that kind at certain parts of this game. You'll get frustrated. It's going to be a bad time. But it's nothing too... It's not miracles that are needed here. You just need to play it smart and play it well. And if I can do it, you can do it too. And that's what you've got to think like. Because that's what guides are all about, folks. That is the reason why these guides exist. Because every so often when you're playing something that you find very hard, you need to see somebody else do it. As soon as you see them do it, you can do it yourself, because you know it's possible. But until that moment, sometimes it can be very intimidating. And I've been the same, guys. I've been the same with certain games. And as soon as you see somebody do it, you know you can do it, because it's possible. And I think that's very valuable, and it's one of the reasons I do it. So, but use your height advantage, use all the advantages you can, and this part should be pretty simple. So I'm going to talk about some different things, just because it's one of those things where this video is going to go for another 10 minutes, and all you're going to see me doing is tentatively shooting people and playing it as safe as I possibly can. One of the things I did enjoy on this game is how it got some of the narrative over to you. It introduced this radio guy who, not only does he berate you and does he mock you and he tells you little bits of shit that's going down, but he also plays music, which really adds to some of the combat, because I don't know about your guys, but when music plays when I'm doing a game, and it doesn't even have to be an intense game, but it always makes it feel like it's a lot more badass than what's actually happening. Like, especially if you listen to any kind of really really loud or really active music. For instance, if you play Call of Duty, a really fast-paced shooting game, and you've got some good music on, it really feels like you're a badass, or you're having a badass moment. And one of the things this game does great is it emphasizes all these fights with not necessarily any kind of specific music, but it's a lot of different kind of war-y, stereotypical this kind of genre music, and I think it works really well, even though it's not necessarily something I would go out of my way to buy or download or however you want to acquire your music. But I think it fitted and I think it suited well. Also, there's a grenade launcher there. You want to make the most of that. It's super good. Any kind of explosives on this game equals winning. Just make sure that you make every shot count and you at least get more than one dude per shot, because it just makes it go a lot farther. But stuff on my channel, because a lot of people might be curious, as right now all you've seen for the last few days has been Zone of the Enders, because I'm trying to get the guide out. Darksiders 2 is recorded, and I just need to do some commentary. I'm going to be doing some of it with my girlfriend. I'm going to be dropping some commentary on it. And you're going to be seeing that intermittently when it uploads, because they are quite large. I'm going to be starting back on the Saints Row 3 live playthrough, because it's the only playthrough now that's not complete on my channel. And I want to do that because it's a fun game and people were enjoying that series, so it'd be nice to see it come back. There's going to be more Black Ops 2 content coming, some zombies. There's going to be a plethora of Dark Souls stuff. I've got Photoshop on my new computer now. It took me a while to get it on this one installed, but I finally have. So it enables me to do some of the more intensive projects that have been taking a while, mainly because I was transferring data from my laptop to a PC, which was taking forever, and just really, it's not efficient. It's not an efficient way to work. And now that I've got it on this system, I'll be able to finish off doing the parry instructionals for the rest of the areas in Dark Souls. So a lot of areas to come, everything from Sense Fortress to Anor Londo to the Kiln to, Blight Town. I've got a whole bunch of different places I've recorded and I've put together. I just need to put the menus and stuff on, and the stats that I do in Photoshop, and then you'll be seeing those. There's going to be another Dark Souls playthrough coming. I'm not entirely sure what it's going to be yet. Not decided, but a lot of people have been requesting it. There's going to be a Demon Souls live playthrough coming, which is going to be the next live playthrough I do. Don't know if I'm going to start it until I do the Saints Row, because then it motivates me to finish Saints Row to start Demon Souls. No promises of when you're going to be seeing that. We have about a month here, guys, of no activity on the gaming front, and then it goes a little bit mad, because Devil May Cry comes out, Dead Space 3 comes out, Metal Gear Revengeance comes out. There's a lot of top tier titles that I want to cover, and I'm hoping that my social situation is sorted out by that point, and I'm either working a job or I'm in a position where I'm being able to be funded to do what I'm doing. I don't know how that's going to work. I'm still sending emails out at this moment in time to every gaming facility I can find, pretty much selling myself and selling my passion and linking them to my portfolio on YouTube of projects that I've done. But email is a very easy thing to ignore when you're in a very busy company and you probably get thousands a day, so I've not had any replies over the space of weeks I've been waiting, and it doesn't deter me from doing it. It's just when you tell your folks that you're not getting emails back and you're sending emails out, they get this impression that you're perhaps not trying hard enough, and that's not the case. But it's one of those things where I know I could pick up the phone and get a job tomorrow, but it's something that I hate. And at this moment in time, I've got a brief window to look for a career, and not everybody manages to get one that they enjoy. And I'm working towards finding something I enjoy. It's getting a little bit more realistic now, in a sense that I'll probably have to do something shitty while I continue to search, because it's been a couple months now, and I don't shy away from work. I do like working, and I need a job. I really do, and it sucks. But hopefully, as I've mentioned, I'll be able to focus on the projects, because even if I'm working and I've only got 2 days off or something, I'll still be able to manage the time to get that content covered, because I work pretty fast when I need to, and I work better under deadlines, which is interesting. Because, for instance, I never really look forward to November as much as the games are fun, and I do enjoy the barrage of titles. But my reason for it is I know I'm about to pull some ridiculous hours to get the content up and get the content done, because this year in particular was going to be rough, because we had Halo, we had Black Ops 2, and then we had Hitman, and it was all in the space of 3 weeks. And a week sounds like a long time to get things done until you're doing it. And I'm including uploading in this as well, because uploading is the bit that takes the longest for me, and it's also the most frustrating section, because I can record and edit a guide in a day. I can't do all the commentary because it takes too long, and my throat would just get absolutely fucked, because I can only do it for so long before I realise I'm probably not going to be able to speak the next day. But in the space of 2 days, I can get it all completely done and rendered, and then it's a case of just putting it up, and getting it up can take forever. Especially when I live in a house that has terrible internet that's shared by 3 people. That being said, I do use the majority of it, and I don't pay for it, so, you know, I can't complain at all. It's absolutely fantastic at this moment in time, but it's still difficult. And when you've got 3 projects on the bounce, you don't feel like you've got a moment off. You don't feel like you're ever not doing stuff for YouTube. And I don't mind it. It's just, I can't show other people that it's valuable of the time I put in. And the only person that understands it is my girlfriend. And even she probably doesn't understand it 100%, because it's not through ignorance or anything, or a lack of intelligence. It's just because there's a lot of stuff that she doesn't see. And it's not because I hide it from her, it's just like anything else. A lot of people don't realise the work that goes into certain stuff. It's extremely easy to say anybody can do X, anybody can do Y, until you do it yourself. And that's when you really appreciate it. It's just like any kind of job. Not that I would compare this to any kind of job, because if I were to be a full-time YouTuber, I would call that a dream job, personally. But anyone who's worked a job, and I'm assuming all of you have who are listening, unless you're too young to be at that age yet, but the first thing that happens when you start working any kind of job is you can't believe you're being paid to do what you're doing. Because it doesn't make sense. You're enjoying it, it's new, it's fresh, it's different, and it's like, I'm getting paid for this. This is madness. This is how the world works. God bless the world. A year down the line, if you're still at the same place, you're not getting paid enough to do that job. Because once the fun and the newness of it, the freshness leaves, the only thing you're left with is the repetition and the monotony of doing something that is essentially against your will. Because you don't want to be there, you have to be there, because you're contractually obliged, and it gets you money. And that is the difference, that is the juxtaposition of these two ideals of, at first, when it's fresh and new, it's great, but then after time passes, it becomes the job it is. And like, a lot of people think that certain jobs are easy just because they don't involve a lot, but some of the things that involve the least can be the most difficult jobs to do, because you're not stimulated, your mind is not being, challenged. So it might be the case that a monkey can do it, but when you put a human being to do it, it can be some of the most soul-destroying work you've ever done. And when I worked at a supermarket, there was a certain part of the day where you had to do something they called racking down, which is where you false face the shelves and you make them look fuller than they are, so that when they open the next day, all the shelves look great, and then they can come in and put the stock on and fill them up as they're supposed to be. And essentially all you're doing is going around the entire store and pulling things to the front to make them look full. And don't get me wrong, on the things that are easy to do it with, it's kind of fun for maybe the first hour, 2 hours, but if you're doing a big store, you're going to be doing it for a long time, and you have absolutely nothing to focus your mind on, because it's such an easy menial task. You're just moving things. There's no, challenging where you're putting them. There's no question or puzzle. It is literally binary. It is A and B and nothing else. And in the space it took, for instance, it took me maybe about 2 hours to do the store I was in. A little bit longer if I took my time, a little bit shorter if I was being quick. But those 2 hours, every shift I worked, and then progressively, towards the time when I quit that job, I would pretty much go into a depression, where my thoughts would start out super positive about the things I wanted to do and the stuff I wanted to, get done when I got home, but eventually it would just spiral and spiral and spiral into self-analysis and realising that at the time I was 17, I'm 17 years old, this is only something to support me while I'm at college, but for a lot of people this is their life, this is their career, this is all they know and all they will ever know, and it just made me think of how much that cannot be me and how much I will not let that be me, because I couldn't work that. I couldn't do it. And every single shift when I used to do this, and all I had to think about was literally nothing, my thoughts would just spiral into this self-pityness of thinking that, I'm absolutely worthless and life is completely futile. And it can be a terrible position to be in. So the next time you look at something like a call centre job or something you don't necessarily like, and you're like, oh, anybody can do that, they really can't, because some of those jobs are really, really difficult, and if you've never worked them, you never have the reference of the challenges that they face. And that is why it's so important to get a job you want, and a job, more importantly, that you like. And in today's society, that is an extremely difficult thing to do. And if you have, you're blessed. You are very fortunate, and not many do. A lot of people settle, and right now I don't want to settle. But I do apologise that got kind of serious kind of quickly. But that is the end of Chapter 4. Thank you for watching, and you take care now.